My name is Francesca. I only recently turned 18. People often say 18 is a milestone that opens up freedom, adulthood, a party that marks a new beginning. But that night, when I had finished hanging all the outdoor lights and set the tray of chocolate cookies I'd baked myself on the table, my whole world suddenly felt empty. Not a single guest showed up. I ran into the living room where my parents were sitting calmly watching Netflix as if nothing had happened. And the answer they gave froze me solid. We canceled the party. Amanda isn't happy, so you can't be happy either. Amanda, my older sister, 23 years old, the golden child who's been spoiled so much the whole family walks on eggshells around her. And me, on the birthday that marks my coming of age, was pushed aside because of a tantrum. I thought it couldn't hurt more until a mysterious envelope appeared among the forgotten gifts. My name was written clearly on it. And from that moment I understood. This was not just a cancelled birthday party. This was the beginning of a truth that could break my whole family. Amanda is 5 years older than me, but the distance between us has never been only that number. It's a deep crack that formed when I still didn't know how to spell my own name. She is my parents' favorite, in the literal sense. From the photos hung around the house, the central position always belongs to her. Every summer break, she was sent to a seaside camp in Santa Barbara while I stayed home feeding the cat and watering the plants. When Amanda was accepted to a prestigious university in California, my parents threw a full celebration and gifted her a brand new car. I still remember that day clearly. My mother wore the red dress she only wears on very special occasions, and my father gave an emotional speech as if Amanda were about to save the world. I was different. I was never celebrated like that. When I was accepted into a small public college in the state with a partial scholarship, my mother only said, "Well, at least you know how to save money for the family." I smiled it off like always. My childhood was a string of concessions. I gave up my jacket because your sister is colder. I gave up a slice of cake because Amanda needs the sugar to study for her exam. One time I was selected for the school talent show, but the performance conflicted with Amanda's senior portraits, and my parents told me I should skip the show because senior photos are an irreplaceable event. I still remember my 12th birthday. I asked for a pair of canvas shoes with a pattern I liked. For a whole week I didn't snack to save money. In the end, my mother handed me a worn brown pair of leather shoes, saying they were still fine for Amanda and it would be a waste to buy new ones. I nodded and thanked her, then turned away, clutching the shoes as if they were the most precious thing in the world. Not because they were beautiful, but because I needed a reason not to burst into tears. And what hurt me most wasn't the lack of material things. It was the feeling of always standing on the sidelines, quiet, lost, as if my existence in this family were a secondary option, a polite mistake that no one bothered to correct. Amanda was favored not just in words but in the smallest actions. For breakfast I toasted my own bread, while Amanda had a prepared meal with berries and almond milk placed at the table by my mother. When she got a low grade in math, the whole family arranged for a private tutor. When I earned a perfect score in literature, my mother nodded and said, "All right, you're good at subjects that don't make money." I used to secretly ask myself, do my parents ever wish I didn't exist? Then I'd feel selfish for thinking that. But that feeling kept hovering like a permanent ink stain that wouldn't fade. Once my school held an essay contest for a small scholarship. I prepared for weeks, writing and rewriting. But when I was about to submit it, my mother told me to give that opportunity to Amanda, who was stressed about next semester's tuition. "You are smarter and stronger than your sister. You can wait for another chance, right?" My mother held my hand, her eyes pleading as if it were the right thing to do. And that night I tore my draft into tiny pieces. Every time I forced myself to let things go, forgive, endure, the anger would subside, but never disappear. It sat there like simmering magma beneath the surface. Each time Amanda put on that wounded face and my parents coddled her like a 5-year-old, I shrank silent. She had everything: her own car, a family credit card, a social media account with tens of thousands of followers, and the power to make the whole house hold its breath whenever she was not happy. Me. I was the walking shadow who cleaned, who learned to reassure myself. Maybe I was born to be stronger. That birthday night, when my parents canceled my party to placate her because a trip to Los Angeles was postponed, I thought my disappointment had hit rock bottom. But when I heard my mother say, "Amanda is very fragile right now. We need to prioritize her," I felt cold. so cold that the shadow inside me began to crack. I still remember the pale yellow light falling across the cream tablecloth I'd carefully spread that morning. The chocolate cookies, still warm, were neatly placed on a glass plate, next to the gift boxes I'd wrapped myself, bows tied with hands trembling in excitement. And yet, up until now, no one had come. I ran into the house, my sneakers still with grass and dirt on them. Mom? Dad? Did someone call to cancel? I asked. Both of them turned to look at me from the sofa where a noisy action movie was playing on Netflix. Mom reached out and hit pause, looking a little embarrassed. About that, we were going to tell you, but, she began. It's been cancelled, honey, Dad interjected, his voice even as if he were talking about replacing a burned-out light bulb. Cancelled? What do you mean? Amanda isn't happy. She's really sensitive because of the trip. We don't think it's appropriate to have the party today. My mouth dropped open, no words came out. Everything spun in my head. The orders for the cake, the guest list, the lights I'd hung for nearly 2 hours under the hot sun, all brushed aside just because Amanda wasn't happy? At that moment, footsteps came down the stairs. Amanda, in a powder pink silk pajama set, her curls looking freshly styled as if she'd had her hair done, appeared like the lead in a drama. Oh, you're still wearing that dress? She sneered, eyeing me up and down. You should know better, Francesca. If I don't have a fun weekend, then I think you should quietly share that with the family. She said it as if she were handing out moral lessons. As if me feeling hurt for being abandoned on my own birthday was inappropriate. This is my birthday party. You don't have the right to, I began. But I have the right to feel pain, Francesca, Amanda cut in. And if you had even a little empathy, you'd understand that celebrating while someone else is suffering is cruel. I laughed, not believing my ears. You call a postponed trip to Los Angeles suffering? It wasn't an ordinary trip. It was an opportunity to grow my influencer career. It's the foundation for my whole future. And what about me? What is my 18th birthday in your eyes? A joke? An inconvenience? You're being selfish, Francesca, she replied calmly. Not everything revolves around you. Something inside me snapped. I stepped toward her quickly, face to face. You're the one who always makes everything about you. Since we were kids, have you ever not been the center? Amanda shrugged. Because I deserve it. And you should learn to be humble. That line hit like a slap. I couldn't form a thought. My hand ripped at a strand of her elaborately curled hair. She screamed, you psycho. We lunged at each other like two trapped animals. The shouting, the hair pulling, the thud as we fell echoed through the living room like a scene I never thought would happen in real life. Stop. Both of you stop right now. Mom yelled. Dad rushed in and pulled us apart. Francesca, are you crazy? How does a younger sister fight like this? I am the younger sister, I yelled, tears streaming down my face that I didn't bother to wipe. But in this house I'm always treated like an extra. I hadn't finished speaking when, ting-tong, the doorbell rang. Everyone froze, breaths still ragged. Dad straightened his shirt, Mom wiped her tears. Amanda shouted, don't open the door. Anyone except Francesca's guests. But Dad stepped forward and pulled the mahogany door open. Pause. Then I heard Dad whisper, Grandfather, what are you doing here? I leaned to look over Dad's shoulder. My heart skipped a beat. The man standing at the door was Grandfather Richard, in a neat white shirt, silver hair slicked back, standing as straight as a pine in a storm. The man I hadn't seen show up for years. The man my father used to say, didn't want anything to do with this family anymore. He glanced around the room, then his eyes landed on me, my birthday dress crumpled, hair a mess, one cheek flushed, eyes still wet. What is happening here? I don't know what kept Grandfather Richard away from our lives all those years. But at that moment, when I stood in the messy living room, hair tangled, cheeks stinging from tears and anger, he appeared as if an invisible thread had kept him connected to me through the long silence. He appeared in the doorway, eyes sharp as a cold blade, looking from my father to my mother and finally stopping at Amanda, who was still fixing her hair, ruffled from the scuffle, lips curled with resentment. What is happening here? His voice was slow but full of force. I clenched my hands, took a deep breath, then stepped forward. Grandfather, I'm sorry you had to see this. He looked at me and his gaze softened a little. Francesca, are you okay? I shook my head. Then, like a cork pulled after years of pressure, I began to cry. Not sobbing, but hot tears streaming down my face, impossible to hold back. I told him everything. No hiding. No pretending to be fine like I had for years. I told him about being forced to give up jackets, losing scholarship opportunities, the dinners I ate alone because Amanda was tired and needed quiet. I told him I'd never been hugged by our parents for longer than 3 seconds because your sister gets jealous. About this birthday, the first party I dared to dream of, being cancelled because of my sister's tantrum. When I stopped, my throat tight, he turned to my parents, his voice low. For 5 years I have sent money regularly every month to you too. I thought I was helping you stabilize work, pay debts, and above all raise these 2 children fairly and kindly. And this is how you use that money? To discriminate? To make my youngest granddaughter grow up in forced quiet and humiliation? My father swallowed hard. My mother pressed her hands together and spoke in a weak voice. That Amanda is very sensitive. The Los Angeles trip is a big opportunity. She was badly affected when it was postponed. Enough, he cut in coldly. Amanda, how old are you this year? 23, she answered, trying to stay calm, but her voice began to shake. Then why are you acting like a 10-year-old who lost her favorite toy? You don't understand. Amanda suddenly shouted. I planned that trip for months. It's my work, it's my image online. I have to live stream, post videos, meet sponsors. Francesca lost her 18th birthday. Once in a lifetime. Which do you think is more important? He interrupted, not loudly but each word landing like a hammer on stone. Amanda fell quiet. I looked at my parents. Both were quiet. No one said the thing I was waiting for, an apology. Instead, Dad awkwardly asked, Dad, why did you come without telling us? Because today is Francesca's 18th birthday, he replied, voice a little hollow. And I feel I've left her alone for too long. He turned to me, eyes full of determination but warm. Would you like to come live with me, Francesca? You mean now? Yes. I don't want you to spend another day in that house. I have a spare room. Books. Quiet. And people who will always ask, are you okay today? My mother jumped up. Dad, you can't intervene like this. This is our family business. Precisely because it's family, I cannot stay silent. He shot back, eyes cold. If you won't do your duty as parents, then I, as the one who's been providing support and as Francesca's grandfather, will do it instead. Amanda broke the silence with a sarcastic laugh. How ridiculous. Because of a cancelled party, everyone acts like I'm the devil. Francesca's a great actress. I looked at her, my voice oddly calm. No one is acting here, Amanda. It's that, at some point, the truth stands up by itself. Go pack your things, Francesca. He'll wait. I went up the stairs, my legs still a little shaky, but I no longer felt like the hollow of sorrow. In the 18 years I had lived in that house, for the first time I felt chosen. I pulled the old suitcase from under the bed and put in the few belongings that were mine. The hand-knit scarf Grandma once gave me. The set of classic books I bought at the school book fair. The notebook of poems I wrote at 15. Never shown to anyone. And the small framed photo of Grandma with her gentle smile that I always pressed to my chest whenever I felt too tired inside. When I dragged the suitcase down the stairs, Grandfather lingered near the door, hands clasped behind his back like someone waiting for a trial to begin. My parents paced anxiously around him, speaking in small, hurried voices. Dad, we know we were wrong. But if you cut off support, we can't manage. The Tempe office contract we signed hasn't paid out yet. We've relied a lot on your support, especially after the accounting market crashed earlier this year. Mom chimed in, eyes red but trying to remain composed. Then you should have known to be more grateful. He cut in, not raising his voice but not yielding either. You should have thought about teaching these 2 children by your own morality, not by my money. Francesca is too sensitive. Mom still tried to say, voice choked. No. The girl is only sensitive to injustice. And that is not wrong. They saw me but no one spoke to stop me. Only hurried glances, heavy looks. They didn't pity me. They pitied the bank transfers Grandfather would stop sending from tomorrow. As I pulled my suitcase out into the yard, he followed behind, placing a light hand on my shoulder. Francesca, you're much tougher than I thought. I don't know if I'm really tough. I only know, today is the limit. Limits are also beginnings. Grandfather smiled faintly. We got into the car. As it rolled past the iron gate of the house I used to call home, I didn't look back. Phoenix slipped by outside the window, palm fronds leaning in the afternoon sun, the sky turning a soft honey color. He suddenly opened the glove compartment in front of me and pulled out a thick envelope, its edges yellowed. Francesca, this is yours. I took it frowning. Sent from today, grandfather? No. I sent it last week anonymously. But I thought you would need it more than ever. Today. I opened the envelope. Inside were neatly clipped papers. The first page bore a soft handwriting, blue ink blurred in places. Supplementary will Nancy R. Woodson, my grandmother. My throat tightened. Grandma's will? It's the version my children never knew about, he said slowly. She left it 3 years before she passed, but for legal reasons I didn't release it then. Now the time has come. I skimmed the middle section. I, Nancy R. Woodson, being of full sound mind and awareness, hereby leave the majority of my personal estate, including the Woodson Trust, the house in Paradise Valley, and my personal art collection, to the grandchild I believe will grow up with integrity, independence, and the ability to understand her true worth. My hand trembled. She meant, to leave it to the grandchild who deserves it. And I believe, you are the one she intended. I couldn't speak. Everything I knew about my childhood, the things I gave up, the skipped meals, the forgotten birthdays, now felt like old wounds touched by a gentle light. Can I keep it? I whispered. Of course. And you'll have time to understand everything she left. But today I want you to know one thing. You are not invisible. You were never an oversight. I turned my face toward the sunset, pretending to watch it, but really to hide the quiet tear that fell. Grandfather Richard's house sat quietly in a small corner of Paradise Valley, with beige walls, brown tile roof, and bright purple bougainvillea climbing across the porch. No shouting, no hurried footsteps, no watchful eyes like the ones I'd lived under for 18 years. Only the sound of wind through curtains and the faint smell of morning coffee drifting from the kitchen. I once thought I wasn't suited for quiet, but that was because I had never truly tasted it. On my first morning there, Grandfather had set out a newspaper, a glass of fresh orange juice, and a bowl of oatmeal on the table. Waking early is a good habit. But if you want to sleep in today, that's fine too. It feels like, this is the first time someone has set breakfast for me. He looked up, gray eyes furrowing. Really? I nodded. No blame, just a fact. And somehow that truth weighed on him. The days that followed passed gently. In the mornings he drove me to the new high school he'd registered me for, while I waited for college applications. In the afternoons we cooked, watched the news, or sat on the porch listening to old jazz from a radio he'd kept since the 80s. Once, while I was struggling with an essay about family and character formation, I turned to him. Do you think people can forgive their family, even if they never apologize? Forgiveness doesn't have to wait for an apology. But forgiveness also doesn't mean you keep accepting harm. I looked at him, feeling a knot inside me loosen, one I didn't know had been tied so long. One evening, while we ate vanilla ice cream with blueberries, he spoke without looking at me. Francesca, there's something I think you should know. Not to place blame, but so you understand that everything you carried was never your fault. I set my spoon down, heart suddenly cold. What is it? He turned the spoon in his hand for a long moment, then exhaled. Your mother once didn't want to keep you. What do you mean? That year, when she was pregnant, a car accident took both of your maternal grandparents. Your grandmother was still alive then. The news came as the pregnancy reached the 3rd month. Your mother collapsed completely. He paused, eyes distant as if returning to that moment. She began to believe you were a bad omen, that the death of her parents was tied to your existence. She never said it outright, but she carried that bitterness, so deep that she seriously discussed with your father the idea of giving you up for adoption. I froze. They thought about abandoning me? Your grandmother stopped it. She held you in her arms the day you were born and said, "This child does not bring misfortune. She brings me a reason not to fall." I turned away, swallowing hard. For the first time I understood why all these years I had felt I needed permission to exist. And my parents, I asked softly, did they ever change? They tried in their own way. But some fractures in the heart, if not healed from within, no one else can mend. You were never anyone's mistake, Francesca. I want you to know that even if the whole world never says it to you. I bowed my head. I didn't cry. But inside something fell away. Not tears, but the shame that had clung to me for 18 years. Since moving in with grandfather Richard, my phone had not stopped buzzing. Messages from Mom, her tone so soft it felt fake. I'm sorry for everything. We were too harsh. I know you're hurt. But if you tell grandfather you're not angry anymore, maybe he'll reconsider. Right? An hour later came a missed call from Dad, followed by another message. We're trying to make things right. Every family stumbles. What matters is facing it. I believe you're mature enough to understand. Your grandfather is very upset, and you're the only one who can change that. I was in grandfather's backyard, phone face down beside a steaming cup of mint tea. I didn't want to answer. I was too used to apologies built not to heal but to manipulate. It clearly when I read Mom's last line, our family won't survive if grandfather cuts support. Amanda is under so much pressure. Please don't make things harder. Not one word in any of those messages asked if I was okay. They didn't mention the cancelled birthday, the fight with my sister, the years of swallowed tears. Only money. Always money. I told grandfather everything that night over dinner while we ate lasagna he'd baked himself. He listened, cutting the pasta slowly as if none of it surprised him. They'll try everything, he said. But don't let it make you doubt your worth. I don't doubt it, I answered, then paused. But what if they really can change? He looked up, thoughtful. Do you think they want to change? For themselves or for their bank account? That night I decided to answer. But not to mend anything. It was to test something small. I texted back, if I come home then Amanda has to move out. She's 23, she can take care of herself. If you agree I'll consider it. I wasn't waiting for a miracle. It was a simple test. To see who was really at the center of that family. 3 days passed with no reply. I wasn't disappointed. On the contrary, it only confirmed what I needed to know. But on the 4th day something happened. That afternoon I had left advanced English, stepping out the gate of Chaparral High when I saw Michael, my classmate and the person I trusted most here, leaning against a lamppost holding 2 sodas. Want to walk home? The sun's not too harsh today. He smiled. We often walked a few blocks back to my grandfather's house. It helped me breathe and calm down. But that day, barely 2 blocks in, I felt eyes following me. Michael noticed too. Do you see someone behind us? I glanced back. A silver Honda Civic was parked 2 houses down. Leaning against it was Amanda. I froze. Michael, I think today you should walk with me all the way home. Sure. No problem. His face turned serious and he moved closer to me. Amanda didn't speak right away. She only trailed behind, about 20 steps back like a shadow. As we neared the intersection, I turned, my voice calm but firm. How long do you plan on following me? Amanda strode forward, eyes blazing. You think you have the right to set conditions to force me out of the house? As the sister whose birthday you ruined, I answered. As the sister you once told didn't deserve a happy day because you were sad. Michael cut in, his voice tight as a wire. Francesca said she doesn't want to talk. So it's best if you get back in your car and leave. Amanda glared at him. I don't need a high school bodyguard here. This is family business. Family? You only remembered that word when grandfather cut the support, didn't you? That line poured gasoline on the simmering fire. Amanda rushed closer, faster than I expected. You're so ungrateful. I gave you everything. Really? I shot back, eyes locked on hers. Which birthday did you give me? Which scholarship? Which moment of our parents' attention did you ever give up for me? Amanda screamed, you're the reason this family's a mess. And then without warning she lunged at me. I didn't have time to react. My shoulder slammed against the cement curb, my whole body pinned by someone both familiar and foreign. I heard Michael shout, then felt his strong hands yank Amanda off me as if she weighed no more than a backpack. I gasping, my arms stinging. Amanda thrashed in Michael's grip, screaming words no one could make out anymore. I stepped closer, my eyes cold as ice. If you touch me again, I'll call the police. And this time I won't hesitate. Michael held Amanda tight, stopping her from lunging again. Don't make her your enemy, Amanda. You don't have the power to scare her anymore. I had never slapped anyone in my life. But when Amanda swung at me, when her pale pink polished nails scraped my collar, when my body still ached from being shoved into the pavement, my hand rose on instinct, sharp, firm, unwavering. The slap cracked louder than her scream. Amanda's face jerked sideways, her tangled hair catching the afternoon breeze, her eyes wide with disbelief. Michael moved closer, keeping a safe distance between us, his hand gripping his backpack strap as if ready to shield me again. Amanda turned toward me, tears streaming, not from pain but from humiliation. You're destroying this family, she shrieked, her voice warped and high. I looked straight into her eyes, unflinching. This family never included me. The air fell silent. I heard the rustle of leaves, the patter of sneakers on the street, the honk of traffic 2 blocks away. What did you say? Amanda whispered as if afraid to believe it. I repeated, slower, clearer this time. This family never included me. They had you. They had the perfect image they wanted you to keep. Me. I was only the shadow, faint enough not to be noticed, real enough to make you shine. She didn't move. Didn't argue. In her eyes flashed not fury but something else, confusion, a crack. Michael placed a hand gently on my shoulder. We should go. I nodded. But before turning away I added, not loud, not bitter, only as a final truth. If you touch me again I'll call the police. And this time I won't let it go. Not you, not Mom, not Dad. None of you get to control me anymore. I don't know what stopped Amanda from chasing after us. Maybe Michael's presence. Maybe my slap. Or maybe, because she had heard a truth she couldn't face longer than a few seconds. On the way home, Michael stayed close, slowing his pace to match my limping step. My left knee still ached, but I refused every offer to see a doctor. I didn't want another trace of that fight recorded in a medical file. When we reached home, Grandfather was already on the porch. The black iron gate stood ajar, the porch light glowing though the sky was still lit with gold. His eyes fell instantly on the scrape along my wrist and the blood at my knee. What happened? He asked, not loud, but his voice pressed down on the air. It was Amanda. She came to school. Attacked me in the middle of the street. Michael cut in, his anger obvious. I had to step in, sir. Otherwise Francesca could have been hurt worse. Grandfather Richard let out a long breath, nodding slowly. Come inside. Clean the wounds, then tell me everything. After I changed clothes, he called me out to the porch. In front of him was a file folder filled with legal papers, envelopes, and a small notebook. I won't let this pass as an accident, Francesca. If needed, we can contact an attorney. I don't want to drag it out. Amanda has already ruined her own image. I don't need to do anything more. He studied me for a long moment, then smiled faintly, a little sadly. Just like your grandmother when she was young. Knowing she was hurt but still choosing not to strike back. I turned away, eyes on the distant Camelback Mountains. It's not generosity. I don't want to be pulled back into that swamp again. After a pause, he spoke softly, each word weighed, then let them face the consequences themselves. I nodded slightly. But I knew after today, every mask had fallen. No more empty apologies. No more pretending to be the perfect family. I had never stepped into Wilson Myers, the law office in downtown Scottsdale, before. But that morning, as I crossed the thick glass doors beneath a polished bronze nameplate, this wasn't a family meeting. This was a confrontation. And none of them could avoid it any longer. Grandfather Richard had already notified them, brief and cold, that every family member must be present. My mother refused several times, claiming work obligations, but he gave only one reply. If you don't come, I will consider it your decision to forfeit all rights connected to Nancy's estate. 10 minutes before the scheduled time, Grandfather was already there. Still in his familiar gray suit, black tie, carrying the worn brown leather briefcase that I took my place beside him in the main conference room. Along with the lead attorney and 2 paralegals taking notes. The air was so solemn I felt like I was at a sentencing, not a family meeting. The door burst open. My parents walked in, followed by Amanda. She wore a white jumpsuit, her makeup flawless down to the last detail, as if she were stepping on stage, not into a hearing. Mom avoided my eyes, while Amanda tilted her chin, lips pressed tight as if nothing had happened days ago. Attorney Wilson spoke first, beginning with the standard legal introductions. Then he placed a sealed copy of the document before each person. The supplementary will of Nancy R. Woodson, dated May 18, 20XX. Grandfather gave a slight nod, signaling to proceed. The lawyer's voice rang clear through the closed room. I, Nancy Rebecca Woodson, being of sound health and mind, hereby execute this will as a supplement to prior legal instruments. I had already read it, but hearing each word aloud still made me hold my breath. All personal property, including the home in Paradise Valley, the trust bearing my name, the art collection, family jewelry, and the savings account at Arizona Federal, shall be transferred entirely to the grandchild whom I believe embodies three qualities: self-respect, independence, and the ability to see her true worth, even when dismissed by others. I glanced at Amanda. Her face drained of color. The lawyer paused, then continued. The person entrusted with evaluating these qualities, and thus determining the sole beneficiary, is my husband, Richard Elias Woodson, who has helped raise our grandchildren from their earliest years and knows how each has grown within our household. My father frowned. You mean Mother gave you full authority? According to the special clause signed and notarized by Mrs. Nancy herself, the final right of decision belongs to Mr. Richard Woodson. This has been verified as legally valid. Amanda slammed the table. This is ridiculous. Why didn't she speak to us directly when she was alive? Because she knew she'd be doubted, questioned, and pressured to change her mind, Grandfather replied calmly. But she never did. Even on her deathbed she repeated, let Francesca have the chance she never got. My mother turned to him, her smirk sharp. So from the beginning you intended to let her take everything? Not because she is the youngest, but because she is the only one among you who knows how to live without favoritism. He turned to me, his eyes steady. Francesca grew up with injustice but never complained. She worked with her own effort, even when those who should have protected her did the opposite. Amanda shot up from her chair, hissing, my sister is ungrateful. She plays the victim to snatch everything. I'm not snatching anything, Amanda. This is what Grandma left. If you feel robbed, maybe it's because deep down you know, you never deserved it. Attorney Wilson gave a slight nod, signaling the conclusion. Thus, according to Nancy Woodson's wishes and lawful delegation, the entire estate will be transferred to Francesca Woodson, effective after today's signing. Grandfather placing a gentle hand on my shoulder. Starting tomorrow, the Paradise Valley house will be yours. The trust will also be under your full management, with the assistance of a financial advisor I've already appointed. I couldn't speak. My throat tightened. My father was stunned, my mother wept soundlessly. Amanda collapsed into her chair, nails digging into the wood until her knuckles turned white. For the first time in my life, I didn't have to yield. I had signed the last paper when a bang on the table cut through the room. My father shot up, face red, voice seething. This is a setup. Francesca manipulated everything. She charmed her grandfather, trapped us, and stole the whole estate. My mother rose too, her voice cracking. She's not the obedient Francesca we knew. She schemes, she exploits father's soft heart. She cannot be trusted. Amanda wouldn't sit still either. She shoved her chair back with a screech across the wooden floor. If she takes everything, then we lose it all. The house, the trust, the paintings, Grandma's jewelry, everything gone from us. I turned to Grandfather. He sat calm, but his clasped hands on the table tightened. He opened his briefcase, drew out a thick stack of papers, and set them neatly in the center. Here are printouts of every text, email, and note Francesca has received from you, all this time, including the messages sent in the middle of the night, begging her to speak to Grandfather so he'll forgive, or to come back and make the family whole again. My mother's face went pale. Father, you read those? I didn't need to read. I heard them all. Amanda shrieked, trying to swipe the stack off the table. They mean nothing. They were anger in the moment. I taught Francesca one thing from the day she came to me. If someone ever uses words to manipulate you, use those same words to defend yourself. I slowly pulled my phone from my pocket. A small black recorder, the kind Grandfather had bought me one quiet afternoon at an office supply store. I kept everything like you told me, I said softly. I opened the recordings, choosing one labeled simply, 10 p.m., after Mom's text. The audio rang clear through a small Bluetooth speaker on the table. "My dear, I know I was wrong, but can you say one word to your grandfather? Just one and he'll change his mind. Amanda is under so much stress. The whole family needs you. We can't lose everything because of his temper." I watched the relatives sitting around the table. Uncle Howard, Aunt Evelyn, Uncle Kyle, and the cousin who had always stayed neutral. Their faces shifted from shock to discomfort. Then to avoidance. Another clip played. My father's voice, dry. "If you stay silent, we'll lose everything. You think he'll let this family stand? Do you want Amanda to rent an apartment? You want him to sell off everything because of the words of an 18-year-old like you?" Amanda's face turned crimson, her lips trembling, but she stopped screaming. My mother sobbed, not from sorrow over loss, but from being exposed in public. Grandfather looked at each of them, his sadness gone. His gaze was icy, drilling into those who had used family as a mask for exploitation. "You don't need to believe Francesca. You don't need to believe me. Listen to your own voices in these recordings," he said. I leaned closer to him. "I don't need them to believe me. I only need them to stop pretending." After that reading, everything moved faster than I expected. In less than a week, the regular transfers grandfather had maintained for my parents, including funds propping up their Tempe accounting office, were officially cut. Their office lease was cancelled for non-payment. The new SUV my mother drove to work was repossessed after 2 months of missed installments. I didn't gloat. But I didn't pity them either. The things they flaunted as fruits of hard work unraveled the moment the money stopped. And when there was nothing left to cling to, the pretense peeled away like makeup at the end of the day. Amanda suffered the sharpest blow. She was forced to leave her luxury apartment in downtown Scottsdale after the landlord raised the rent, a subtle way to push out tenants with no financial stability. I didn't hear it from her, but from an old friend of hers, a young influencer who once posed with Amanda in Palm Springs, but cut ties completely after the story of the sister robbed of her birthday spread through their circle. "She used her sadness like a weapon, never apologized," the friend messaged me. "We used to admire Amanda, but after finding out, it was all a facade." Not friends. Even relatives began to withdraw. Aunt Evelyn, once the closest to my mother, the one who used to call me Little Franny in my grade school years, sent me an email saying, "If I had known sooner what you went through, maybe I wouldn't have stayed silent for so long." I don't blame them. In many families, people choose to turn away because it's easier than facing the truth. I officially took ownership of my grandmother's house in Paradise Valley in mid-March. The handover was quiet, with no sign of my mother, though the attorney had sent full notice. I placed my hand on the red brick walls of the porch, tracing the tiny scratches on the wooden rail where Grandma used to sit and read every morning. Grandfather walked me through the house, his hand clasped behind his back, slowly telling stories about every corner. The fireplace he and Grandma once argued over because it was too old. The crooked kitchen lamp Grandma never let him fix because a little tilt feels warmer. When we reached her old bedroom, I paused before the vanity draped with lace. On top sat an old silver frame. In the photo, I was about 7, my hair cut short, grinning wide as I held the tabby cat she once kept. Grandfather looked at me through the mirror. "Your grandmother once said if Francesca goes to college, she must study what she loves, even if it's art, philosophy, or psychology." I let out a small laugh. "It's psychology, Grandfather." I guessed right. And true to his word, I was fully supported for college tuition, not from the inheritance, but from the Nancy Woodson Scholarship Fund, which he reestablished. "So that any child who grew up in silence can finally be heard, not Francesca," he said when I asked why he kept it separate. As for me, all I knew was that every morning I woke up, choosing the bread I wanted to toast, hanging a small photo of Grandma on my desk, listening to birdsong by the porch. I felt alive, not existing. I don't know where my parents are now. They moved out of the old house without leaving an address. Amanda hasn't reached out either. But that doesn't worry me. For the first time in my life, I don't need to chase their presence to know who I am. I moved to Flagstaff in early August, when the highlands of Arizona still held a dry sun but were cool enough to keep windows open all afternoon. Northern Arizona University wasn't the biggest or most prestigious school on my list, but the moment I arrived, I knew it was right. Not because of rankings, not because of job prospects after graduation, but because of something strange. No one here knew who I was, and for the first time that made me feel safe. I studied psychology, partly because I wanted to understand myself, partly because I had lived too long among unacknowledged feelings and people who never listened. My first class was Introduction to Human Behavior. The professor, a middle-aged woman with a steady, low voice, wrote on the board, "All wounds begin with a lack of understanding, and all healing begins with someone willing to listen." I wrote it in the margin of my notebook, circling it, a private reminder for whenever my spirit faltered. After settling into dorm life, I began something I never thought I'd have the confidence to do: planning a small scholarship fund. I named it Phoenix Seed, because it wasn't for the best students. It was for the invisible ones. The kids whose parents never attended parent-teacher meetings, who had to submit their own forms, who washed dishes at 13 to buy books. Kids like me. I set aside a small portion of my inheritance, not much but enough to offer 3 scholarships a year. I sent the files to school counselors in low-income areas around Phoenix and Flagstaff, with handwritten letters. In them I never signed my name. I only wrote, "Tuition should not kill self-respect. And being abandoned by family does not mean you don't deserve opportunity." I included one of Grandma's quotes: "You may grow up unheard, but that does not mean you must live your whole life as an echo." Michael was always by my side without needing to say it. We didn't call each other lovers at first. He came every weekend bringing butter cookies his grandmother baked and a thermos of hot black tea. One time, as I prepared to read through Phoenix Seed applications, he said, "You don't need to be someone great to prove you're worthy." "Then why do you think I'm doing this?" I asked. He shrugged, sitting beside me. "Maybe you're helping other kids not spend 18 years figuring out they're not wrong." And when I leaned my head on his shoulder, looking out the dorm window where the afternoon sun spilled in, I thought, some people come into our lives not to change everything, but to show us that good things have quietly been there all along. In November, I returned to Phoenix. Not to see my parents, not to check on Amanda, but to keep a promise to myself, to walk back into the past no longer afraid. The old house now belonged to new owners. A young family with 2 small children had tied orange balloons along the fence. I took across the street, looking past neatly trimmed hedges. The house had been repainted, the patio table moved, but I still recognized it. It was the same yard where I once placed candles on a birthday cake and waited alone until dark. I slipped my hand from my coat pocket, tapping the strap of my backpack like a quiet reminder. I had kept what needed to be carried. The rest I had left exactly where it belonged, behind me. What would you do if one day your own family made you doubt your worth? Would you stay silent, keep enduring, or would you stand up even knowing the cost of walking away is loneliness? I don't have the right answer for everyone. I only know that sometimes, letting go of an old door isn't because you stopped loving it, but because it was never truly open for you to enter. My story isn't about a canceled birthday. It's about choice. About learning to believe you are worthy, even when no one else says it. And what about you? Have you ever had to quietly walk away from a place you once called home? Leave your thoughts under this video, because sometimes a single word can help someone out there feel less alone. And if this story touched something inside you, don't forget to follow the channel for more journeys of family, pain, and hope, where every story is a real slice of life. See you in the next story.